Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're dialing in from. We are here today with our session Unboxing Growth, our monthly marketing masterclass hosted by Janine Moss and myself. And we are so excited to have a special guest today, a friend and best-selling author, and someone we're just really excited to share her incredible IP and gifts, Melissa Reaves. So we are covering strategically telling your business story. Let's jump in.
Oops, sorry about that, folks.
Well, we jumped to the end.
Okay, wait. No, I know I can do
Thank you for
this.
your attention.
Hang on.
No worries.
Sorry, folks.
No
Close your
worries.
eyes so you don't get dizzy.
All
Apologies.
right.
There we
All
go.
right. So today we're going to focus on making your stories exponentially more interesting and impactful. So you're out there in the world and you're needing to tell your business story, and maybe you're going to give a presentation, maybe you're giving a keynote, perhaps you're pitching your business and you're raising money. All of this work really helps with having much better results and also having a much more fun time doing it. So we're getting into the art and science of storytelling. And what's really exciting about today is the fact that Melissa will be doing a live coaching session during this very call. So please, if you could prepare for that, listen for the story prompts that are going to come later in the slides and start thinking of a business story you might like to tell. If you're chosen, Melissa will do a live coaching session with you. So really exciting.
And we'll all learn a lot from that.
Yeah. So your presenters today include myself, Nicole DeMeo. I am a woman who wears many hats, literally and figuratively. I am a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, on demand by day, and love helping people build their companies and their personal brands. And I also do other kinds of fun things, like I make wine and I do sound healing. Janine?
Yep. I'm Janine Moss. Nicole and I have been business partners for about 22 years already. So it's been a lot of fun. We've really specialized in the technology side of things, of marketing and branding. But I'm an entrepreneur and an innovator. I have launched a bunch of companies of my own. And then Nicole and I have worked on many, many other business launches. And I would say what I love to do is I love to imagine how really terrible ads were pitched to the CEOs and got accepted. That's what I do in my spare time driving down the street.
I do that too. We do that too.
And Melissa?
Yeah, that's so fun. I'm like, how did this make it all the way to a commercial? Okay. Hi, yes, hello. I am Melissa Reaves, and I am the founder and CEO of Story Fruition. I have a pretty rich background, though, prior to that, where I was in sales and marketing and enterprise and data and machine learning and all that. And I know firsthand in business that most people aren't very good at storytelling. But the good news is it's coachable. So I'm excited to be here, and you'll hear more from me the rest of the hour. So
Yeah, so excited. Thank you so much for being here with us, Melissa. So just a quick little bit about us, Outfront Solutions. That's the firm that Janine and I have founded. And as Janine mentioned, we work with enterprise customers, including, the likes of Apple and Accenture and Omnicom, all the way to middle market organizations and even well-funded startups. And so what we're doing with them is providing marketing strategy, branding, and customer acquisition solutions. And as Janine mentioned, every single thing that we do is tech-driven and tech-enabled. We have the technology to really know and drive marketing and increase return on investment like never before. So it's really a joy to be bringing these marketing technologies to our clients. And one thing that I'll just point out here on our Ikigai, which is our construct here on the page, is that it's our reason for being, and all the different things that we do are represented in these concentric circles. And at the heart of everything that we do is results and purpose. And we really focus on driving results in everything that we do. And we lead with driving, with purpose. And we like to align with purpose driven organizations as well.
And just to add to what Nicole said, and of special interest to Leadership Global members has been our personal branding work. We do a lot of work with individuals, helping pull together all of your materials, and then indeed storytelling and learning how to present yourself in many different milieu. So we could talk about that later, and let's move on to Melissa.
Okay, well, let's have some fun today. Thank you so very much of sharing your time and space. Thank you, Janine, out front, C-suite, everyone. Thank you. So we are going to go into a live session with someone who's brave, and we'll share like a 2 to 3 minute story later. So here's a few prompts while you might have this ruminating in you while I'm talking. So when was a time that you were the hero in business, like something went wrong and you walked in and saved the day? Or when was a time when you were the zero, you screwed up and all this stuff happened, and I'm sure you learned something. So think about that. What was it? Because even stories of learning, some people call it failure, I call it learning. Those are some of the best stories that bring the most gold to help you elevate as a human. And then another one might be a moment when you realized you were doing the work you were supposed to be doing. Who were you with? What happened? And what did it make you feel like? So those are a few prompts. We're loaded with prompts here at Story Fruition. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so these are a few of our clients too. So we have been operating for 4.5 years. I now have 7 coaches that have been trained under me for learning how to teach not just storytelling, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be teaching you something much more powerful than just regular storytelling. We're going to get into the science and the art of this basic art form, which I say storytelling in business is an essential skill. We are telling stories all day long, and there are stories that your organization all have to tell. There's core stories. Is your organization trained in that? Do you know how to tell that story so that it has impact, so that the audience is leaning into you because you are so captivating? They don't even know why. Well, we know why, because you're trained. Okay, so this is a skill set, you guys. And I don't know about you, and I say this a lot. When I was going to school, I learned how to read a story, tell a story. I had learned how to read a story, write a story, analyze a story. But how to tell it? That is different. I actually have lots of authors who have been under our tutelage. And when they realize that their own stories in their book can be done differently when they're telling them live on a podcast, it's like a game changer. So the next slide, and we will begin with the science of what's going to go on. So let's start with our brain. Many times what I see in every presentation, especially when I'm seeing investor deck presentations where they're going forward, they're ready to ask for capital, and they start with a graph. They're like 80% of this graph, and it's just graphs and numbers and whatnot. Those numbers are important, and that's what business operates on, but it's not emotional. So what happens is that you literally, when you flash a graph with no stories and you're just looking at the numbers, your audience, neocortex of the brain, is now in gear. It's watching it, but it's not emotional. It's just simply reading it, learning the access, trying to interpret the numbers. If there's a lot of sentences there, it's reading that, but it's not attached. However, when you take that data and actually say, what's the story that this data is trying to tell us? Then why flash the chart when you could tell the story that the chart is showing? And what happens is when you do the story, your limbic system ignites, and it literally biochemically ignites oxytocin, endorphins, you name it, dopamine, depending on what the story's feel and objective is and how you tell it, you are now biochemically taking your audience and putting them on a journey. And the reason why I know this is important is that when I was a kid, I started acting at the age of 9. Okay. And an actor is taught to only care about the audience, that our job is to have you come into our theater and escape. Escape your tough day, your crummy relationship, your nagging kids, whatever it might be, and just come into this world that we're going to bring you in and escape, right? Well, why can't that happen in business? Why can't that happen in the boardroom? Why can't that happen in every sales presentation, partner presentation that you have, where you bring in stories that are relevant to what you're talking about and that your audience, your listening audience, is able to follow you and not get distracted by charts and graphs and lots of words and things like that you're doing on your presentations? So this is why I do what I do every day. Next slide, please. Because what we want to do when we're telling stories is we want to create a mind movie. And what does that mean? It means that you are putting pictures in your audience's mind deliberately. And you're pulling them in so that all they can do is see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, and most of all, feel it. When you're a great mind movie maker, you escalate your magnetic field, I believe, because people want to listen to you. So if you can turn the slide, I have actually written a book on this. And this is what it's called. It's the Storyteller's Mind Movie. And you guys, I haven't seen anything on the market that's like this. It is packed with, how do you do this? How do we break it down into the science? And then there's a companion journal afterwards where it's loaded with prompts for you to write down those moments of golden wisdom that you had in your life. And you can begin to start to craft them so that they're not meandering anymore, that they're actually interesting, and that we can see the characters. So let's move into the next slide. Crow. I want you guys to always look at that bird and remember this bird and remember the acronym. Okay. So when we're telling a story, most people are very vague. They're very kind of bland. And what they're doing is they might say, so my client was really upset with me when we walked into the office. Okay. There's characters in this story already. There's you and then the client. So who are these characters? We need to introduce the characters. And we need to understand the relationship that you are having with this character. Do you like them? Do you not want to, hang out with them? Or are they strangers or are they friends? And then what's the point of the story? You want to make sure you're having your story library, if you will, being packed with stories that have stakes. Is it life or death? Is it health or sickness? Is it wealth or being poor? What is it? What is the transformation that's going to happen when you are telling and sharing this story to your audience? And then there's where. And where, you don't have to start with character, relationship, objective, and where in that order. Lots of people are trained to let's start with the where. Where are you physically when you walk into whatever room or situation? Where are you? What does it look like? Where are you in life? How old are you when you're telling this story? You'll notice a lot of story fruition clients will always start with their age and year, because what we're doing, and I write about this in the book a lot, is that if you say, when I was a kid, I learned that I was really good at marketing. Okay. How old were you? Were you 6? Were you 12? Were you 18? And the reason why we want to identify the age of where we are in life is that it helps, first off, your audience to imagine you now and see me at 6 years old or 12 years old, right? And know maybe, because immediately 6-year-olds think differently than 12-year-olds, right? So we also have different life stages of things that we can associate to. A 6-year-old cares about what? The sandbox, lemonade stands probably sound fun. Halloween's really big, but a 12-year-old, 12-year-old's probably been there, done that, barely goes trick-or-treating anymore. They have different values that are happening. versus an 18-year-old or a 28-year-old or a 48-year-old. Every time you say when your age is as this story starts, you are giving your audience a favor, because now they're like, okay, got it. Okay, I got it. That's cool. And then when you talk with another person, the character that's in the story with you, you can use your voice to let us know what is that relationship. Simply by when you say something like, when I first met Jack, it was a tense situation, to say the least, versus when I first met Jack, it was a tense situation, to say the least. But you can kind of tell, like, maybe me and Jack are going to make it through, or maybe me and Jack are going to have a little bit of issue going in. And that's where you, as the storyteller, have all the power. I say, Steve Jobs once said, that the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world because they set the agendas for generations to come. That's paraphrased, but I would also say that not only are you the most powerful person at that time when you're telling your story, but you also have an obligation. You have an obligation to entertain and educate. Don't bore your audience. And when you are vague, or when you're meandering, or you're not giving specific details, don't beat yourself up. It's something that we can help you change. But when you do that, you're making your audience work harder. And when they have to work harder, they kind of, go like this, or they're just politely looking at you, or, they're off wandering around from someone. And so I'm going to talk about one more thing that I think is important, is that when you are telling a story, and if you are being vague, or you are using acronyms, or you're using vernacular that your company knows and you assume everyone else knows, what you're doing is something very dangerous in your presentation skills. It's called the wander effect. And so what happens is if you say an acronym and people don't know what it means, they start to wonder what it means, and you're still talking, and they're wondering if they're the only person in the room that doesn't know what that word means, and they might even go over to Google to look it up because they don't know what it means, and you're still talking. And what happened was I wandered away from you. I stopped listening to you because you did something, and that's on you. That is on you. So you always want to make sure that you're as crystal clear, you're introducing your characters, you're defining acronyms before you just start using it, because you want to make sure that everyone in the room is with you. I want your grandmother in the back of the room to understand what you do for a living. You've got to be conscientious of your audience. And that's where professional storytelling skills are going to pay off in dividends for you. Okay. So the next slide is about senses. So we have our characters, we have our relationships, we have the stakes that are coming around, and we have our where we are mentally, spiritually. But then this is the gold. And anyone who has studied storytelling knows this. And many of you have been doing it, maybe not deliberately, not realizing what you're doing. But when you can make it so clear that we can see it, and you have dialogue going on with the characters, that's a sound. So now you go from a 2D story, when you start having your characters actually talk, to a 3D experience for the audience. You could say something like, and I looked over at the Christmas tree. All right. Just by saying Christmas tree, one, people can see it. And two, even if you don't celebrate it, you still know what a Christmas tree looks like. And so maybe you can smell the pine, right? Or maybe you can see the twinkling lights, or you see stuffed animals that you traditionally put on. You see your own Christmas tree. What's happening is that the audience, when you insert these words deliberately, or you could say, the sparkling Christmas tree, I could actually manipulate that image so that you see lights in it. Your audience is playing in their own imaginations. Right? They're playing with you. And so you give just enough to let them run with it. And you have their imaginations in your hand. Okay. Respect it and play with it. All right. Thoughts are also a really cool thing. When we're doing thoughts, it's sort of like Shakespeare used to break the fourth wall. So in acting, there's kind of an imaginary wall that's up between you and the audience. And the audience is peering into the actor's world. But with Shakespeare, he'd break the fourth wall. He'd be like, methinks thou dost protest too much. He'd break through it. And that's what's happening in storytelling. So oftentimes, we want to know, as you're telling your story and you're going through this adventure, every now and then you might want to stop and let us know what's going on in your head as the storyteller. right? You could say something like, and when I met Jack, it was tense. Oh God, this is going to be a long day. Okay, you see? So I just kind of showed you like deliberately what's going on inside my mind. All right. So these are all natural things that we're doing, but most people are doing them by default because they haven't really learned how to be deliberate. And when you become deliberate, that's when you start making mind movies. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So what we want to do now, I know that was a crash course. That was a crash course, but it's enough for you guys to now see what we're going to do with it. Okay. So, and we're right on time with this with our first bogey. We want to make sure. Okay. So what we want to do is have someone share. And if you're already thinking, like, if you're like nudging, you want to do it, do it. This is going to be so much fun. Share, just, we'll pull you up. We'll stop the sharing of the deck. Tell us your story. Tell us which prompt you're picking. So share a time with a client when you were the hero, or share a time when you were zero. Like, whoops. And then share a moment, or share a moment where you learned why you do what you do. And just a quick one, and whatever's coming up first. So it might be you remember your first client, or when you found your partner, or when you saw the eyes of a client. Thank you for what you were doing. Everyone has these moments. And so if you can just share right now, I'm going to then do what we call story mining. I'm going to listen to your story, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start asking a lot of questions. And this is what you'd oftentimes see if you were to be a private client with us, or if we came in and helped your organization start building your own story library. We're going to take every story and we're going to look for the gold. Okay. If it's missing, if it's there, we're going to commend you. If it's not there, it's okay. And sometimes we even help you rewrite the story, because you all of a sudden might realize an entirely new perspective of the story you've been telling for years. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I didn't even see it that way. And this is where the third party eyes, the story fruition coaches come in, because we've never heard your story. So we might be, we're going to be looking for any kind of perspective that's going to make you shine as a leader. So, okay. So who would like to bravely stand up? Do we have any volunteers?
Yeah, this is an amazing opportunity, and it's very friendly, I promise.
Totally safe environment. Absolutely.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so Victoria put up her hand. I saw that.
Okay, let's stop the share and bring Victoria up.
Okay, let me.
Yay, Victoria, you guys. Yay, give her like some love in the chat. Let's play fun in the chat.
Yay, go.
Yeah, this is supportive. What's a storytelling time? Let's go. I love my work.
When I was 41.
Can you stop the share? Hold on really quick. Can we stop the share, please?
Yep. Let's get that done.
Look at, and Victoria already has us at 41. Okay.
When I was 41, I went through a really wild and weird time. I was at the top of my game professionally, had a great job, school-age kids doing well, great home. But something really wild and weird started happening to me, where I felt suddenly anxious and self-conscious and palpitations all the time for no reason. I thought, am I having a midlife crisis? Is this what everyone talks about? What's going on? I couldn't sleep to save my life, even though I was super tired. And I just didn't know what was going on, and I felt really alone. My periods started getting really erratic and unpredictable. They were ghosting me. And I still didn't know what was going on, and I'm a doctor. Then it hit me. Hot flashes all day, night sweats all night, still couldn't sleep to save my life. And I didn't know then, what I know now, is that those were symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And if I didn't know what was going on as a female physician with 20 years experience, what hope do the rest of us mere mortals have? It took me a while to get things sorted out, and I did a lot of research because I realized there's nothing out there that can just give it to you straight. No BS, no fluff, and I deep dove for months and months and months doing my own research. And then I started sharing it with my friends because I didn't want them to suffer alone or my family to suffer alone. I didn't want anyone to suffer alone and go through what I went through. So I created Feminine Flame MD, a menopause mastery course to help hot flashing women go from stressed to sexy, from chaos to confidence.
Wow. Bravo. Good job, Victoria.
Thank you.
Okay, next. No, I'm just kidding. That was really, really, really good. Okay, I want to point out some of the things that you did that were just wonderful. She set her age right away at 41. And so every woman who's hit 40 probably is already relating to that. It's like, what is happening to my body? And you did kind of hold back your profession a little bit. So remember, I'm going to be watching for the wonder wander effect. Okay. Mm-hmm. You ended up answering the questions that I had inside, but maybe if you bring it forward a little sooner, you can avoid even a light bit of the wonder wander. And so where I had the wonder wander was, you said, I'm 41 and I'm having a great life, but it got really wild and weird. Okay. I have a great job. I have a great home. Okay. I have a great job. I'm a physician of 20 years, right? So you're obligated to educate us as you're edutaining. Because I was like, job, ? My home, what did it look like? Can you tell us? And tell us a little bit more about your job. So let's go there. And then tell us a little bit about your home and your kids, if you don't mind.
Oh, I was a full-time family practice physician with 2 school-aged girls living in Southern California by the beach.
Which beach?
Ventura
County?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you like about Ventura County?
Mild weather, slow town vibes, feels like Mayberry in Southern California.
See, now that's a mind movie right there, what you just did. That was very specific. It feels like Mayberry. Now, anyone who knows Andy Griffith's show, for those of us who are old enough, that's Mayberry. Now, on that note, though, I am always cautious when people use a television or a movie, because if someone doesn't know what Mayberry is, you caused a little wonder wander right there. Okay, so I am always careful. Everyone's like, I'm going to do a Matrix, and I'm like, you might take off half the room if they haven't seen that movie. Okay, so we do want to be careful when we do use that sort of stuff. But I love that. I think that's great. So and I've been to Ventura, so I understand it. And so you had 2 daughters. How old are they?
Well, they're grown now. This is an old story from years ago.
That's okay. That's what I want. So at 41, I'm just trying to find your life. So at 41, how old are your girls?
12 and 13.
And are they into anything? Like soccer, cheerleading?
Back then,
science.
Sail camp, surf camp.
Surf camp?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you surf?
Bodyboard. I used to.
Bodyboard?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what was your home like? It was busy.
Yeah, busy, working, full-time working mom, the usual hustle and bustle of day-to-day work.
Okay.
But, at the top of my game, because I had been working for several years. Every reason to be energetic, happy, calm, confident. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then tell us about your first hot flash.
Oof.
Raise your hand if you can remember yours.
I don't think if I could put a time on it, other than that I just knew that I had the windows open and it was cold outside because we live near the beach. And my husband's like, it's freezing outside. Why is the window open? I'm dying. I'm like, get under the blankets because this window is not going to close. And the ceiling fan's going to go on. Yeah.
Were you drenched?
Just that feeling of being hot all night long, tossing and turning and wanting to sleep, trying every melatonin, the valerian root, chamomile, everything under the sun, and it didn't work. And I thought it was
so valerian, chamomile,
mm-hmm.
and then you said your nerves became frayed, and that's because estrogen's starting to leave your system, right?
Mm-hmm. And
we like estrogen.
Yeah.
I remember going, "Hi, estrogen." Okay.
I know.
So when was the moment that you realized, oh, okay, this is perimenopause. Tell us a little bit more about that research that you did. What was the one piece where you went, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening at 41? And was that shocking to you too, that it was
Yes.
happening at 41?
Yes, well, that's why it's so ridiculous, because I'm a doctor and I've been treating patients, even menopausal patients, my whole life. But I thought that was for, quote, older women. I didn't
Okay.
realize that it could happen and that it did frequently happen so much sooner. I figured 50 plus, I figured I had time. I knew it would come, but I thought I had time. I thought I'll deal with that down the road. But I was gifted with that news flash, which I will heretofore call the hot flash. It's not a hot flash, it's a news flash. It's a gift from this feminine wizened body that says, hey, wake up, sister. It's about to get real on you.
Oh, okay, good. It's about to get real. Okay, good. Did
But it
that blow
didn't
your
come
ego
first.
a little bit? Was it
Yeah,
shocking to be?
yes, but the hot flash didn't come first. The other stuff did. So that's
Yeah.
why it took me by surprise, and it sort of knocked the wind out of me, because the emotional and the sleep and the nervousness stuff, that came first. So I didn't know then that all that is part of that erratic hormone journey. And it's very common. If I'd have researched all the deep stuff before, I'd have been like, oh, check, 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 obvious. But back then I didn't, and I felt underprepared. And even when I asked my friends, they knew what menopause was. They didn't know about those symptoms, and they didn't know what to do about it. Yeah.
So everyone was around your age. No one had really been going through it. Okay.
Even
And what's
older
the
women,
name?
I mean, there was no consensus on what we should be doing about this.
Okay. And so your mission now is, can you tell me the name of your company again?
Feminine Flame MD.
That's great. Feminine Flame MD. And what's your tag?
To help hot flashing, stressed out women go from chaos to confidence.
I may not get that right.
To help hot flashing women go from chaos to confidence and from stress to sexy.
From stress to sexy. Okay, maybe throw that into the chat when I get to that point.
Okay.
I might not remember that whole thing, but I love every word of it.
Okay.
Every word of it. That is a mind movie. Her tag is so fantastic. From chaos, that is a very strong word that puts lots of images in people's heads. To calm, you can even, choppy waters to calm waters. There's like all these things that you can say. Metaphors are fantastic in storytelling. Okay, so with your permission, Victoria, I want to first off thank you for taking that time, presenting a wonderful story. You could leave it like that, okay, and it's good. I'm just going to give a different perspective on the fly. This is where my improv skills definitely are going to be helpful, and my team also is practicing these improv skills as well. So what I'm going to do now is I've just done story mining. So she brought a story. We mined it a little bit more to give more vivid mind movie information. And I may start it in a different place, because I love, how do you start your story? Like, where are you going to be when you start this story? And that's sometimes the most challenging part for people. So I have an idea of where I'd like to start it. And you may see some time travel that's happening, which is an advanced storytelling skill, is being able to leap into different parts of time without confusing. So I hope I can do it properly for you today. Again, I'm not going to get everything right. What I want the audience to be watching for is how I am introducing the characters, the relationships, and are you seeing the stakes, etc. They were all, she handed me a beautiful story to work with, but here we go. Are you ready? Okay. I don't care if it's freezing in here. I am hot. I am sweating. Look at me. As I stare at my husband, I'm 41 years old. What is happening to me? And I raise the window, and it is probably 45 degrees in Ventura, California, which is like Antarctica to us. And it is not cold enough. I am 41 years old, and I am on the top of my game. I am a physician, and I can't diagnose myself. And this is frustrating. I have women who are coming to me who are in their 50s. And yeah, they'll start talking about like these hot flashes and they're having some anxiety, but 41. This is not supposed to be happening. At least I don't know. I'm irritated. I'm agitated. My kids, Mom, can you take me to surf club? Ugh, can't you just drive yourself? I guess you can't drive yourself yet. Okay, yes, I'll drive you. And I'm becoming kind of terse with people on just simple things. I drop my pencil. I want to cry. There's not a lot that I feel that I'm in control. But I look at my world and I know that I have a great life. We have a beautiful home. We spend time on the beach in Ventura, and I feel like I'm in Mayberry, that it's my little oasis bubble. But my beautiful, calm bubble is chaos inside me. And something has to change. Now, having been a doctor for 20 years, it's really kind of in my DNA to want to research and get down to the bottom of it. And I was learning valerian wasn't working, chamomile wasn't working, but meditation helped a little bit. And then I started to research that exercise was going to help, that my diet was a big part of the work that I needed to do. And that's when I realized, I don't think I'm alone. I don't think I'm alone. And all my friends were like, I've had that happen too. I don't get it. It makes me really irritated. I know, right? And then one day I had this vision and I realized I can help women like this. That me going through this makes me a Sherpa for those moving forward, coming towards it. So I established my company called Feminine Flame MD. And what we are doing is we are trying to help these women go from chaos to calmness, from hot to sexy, and feeling good about who they are. And every day when I wake up, I am talking to women who I've been in their shoes before. I understand, sister. It takes some work, but this storm you feel shall pass. And that's what we're doing here every day with our organization. And that's it.
Brilliant. That was so meta. That was so meta watching you be me. It was super cool.
Well,
I was like, you can do it, Victoria. You can do it.
What did you like about it? What did you like about it?
I liked, well, obviously you're a natural at storytelling. Obviously, that's why you're on this call, because you have me convinced that you're me. So you really picked up the most poignant pain points, because it was really painful. I mean, looking back, it's like a hero's journey, right? It went from zero to hero, like what you said. Looking back, it's a hero's journey. In the moment, it was incredibly painful and incredibly isolating and very scary. So
is it relatable to the audience out there?
You caught that.
Yeah.
I was probably less angry and more fearful at the time, which wasn't in my nature, not my nature to be fearful. I can go in and catch a baby and go in and see blood and gore, and none of that bothered me, but I felt really fearful, which was new. And you captured the personal flavor and feel to it, and that was amazing. It was all the same words, but it was much more engaging. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I think maybe what made it, see, you were doing a lot of self-talk. When I was showing the senses, you were doing a lot of self-talk. So we knew what was inside your head. I just brought that out a little bit more. And I also started you in a very clear spot with the window, right? I started you at the window, whipping it open. Nothing could be cold enough. It's 45 degrees, which is Antarctica to Ventura. So I was trying to give people an idea of what your world was like. And you did a lot of great stuff where you'd say chaos to calm, and things like that. So I wanted to kind of thread that in throughout the story. So I was sprinkling it into the end so that I could really have to hit it with impact when you say it in your tag, which I don't know if I got it right. I was looking for it, but
you did. It was great.
But also dialogue, right? There was a few people that were speaking. I had your daughter, Mom, can you take us to surf camp? Did you notice that as soon as I had her speak, what did it do for you all? Could you see a little girl? Just like, what'd you see? And go ahead and put it in the chat. What did you see when the little girl spoke? Did you see her with a surfboard? Did you see her in shorts? Could you hear her? Because my voice changed. I went, Mom, but what? And I'm sorry if I made you a little more terse. I said I wasn't going to get it completely right, but for dramatic effects, I did it.
That was good. That was good.
Right. And your husband, he was just more like, could you see the husband's face? Like, what is happening to my wife?
Yeah.
All of that is happening in every single person who's listening to both of us.
Yeah.
But now I want my audience to be like, whoa, I did see that.
Yeah.
I did hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had any flavors in there yet.
Yeah.
I could have added something like, coffee tasted bitter. I could have
Yeah.
said something like that. And this again, so she gave us a story. We mined it. I did some crafting of it, right? And now what we would do next is we would storyboard it so that it would be scene by scene written out for you, Victoria, based on the recording. And you still have the chance to craft it. So we work back with you. We come back and we're like, do you like this scene? Or should we weed whack it? Should we just take it out?
Yeah.
Because your stories might go a little long at first, and that's okay.
Mm.
And we're going to trim it. We're going to trim it till it gets really tight. And now you'll have a story that you can use on a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
People like, how did you get into your line of work is a pretty common question.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have a very powerful story out of the gate. And podcast listeners love to have images in their heads. That's what they're waiting for. All you have is your words. So if you're doing media podcasts, we do media podcast training where we build your story library so that you have several stories depending on the question. This story might be relevant in a variety of ways, and we can kind of twist it a little bit. Like maybe you want to talk about, like, if you have a patient and the patient's talking about being short-circuited with their kids, you could just jump to that scene. Just say, I remember one day my little girl asked me, can I go to surf camp? And I was like, what? And I wanted to pounce on her like a lioness. That's just a little scene that's based in one of your bigger stories that you can pull out. So that's why we go scene by scene, making sure that we've got characters, relationships, stakes, and that the where is set up.
I like that idea of scenes because it makes it much easier to like have a bunch of flashcard picture moments in your back pocket to pull out for different scenarios. I like that idea.
Yes, it's in the book too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to say that if I may recommend, the book and the workbook are wildly helpful for that because it can help you chunk out those scenes. And so when you go to tell that story again, when you're presenting, you have it there.
Are there any questions that are, and again, Victoria, bravo. Thank you. I'm hoping, that was just one example of what we do, but I'm hoping that you all are starting to realize how important and how fun this work is. It's an essential business skill, and you are all walking storybooks. How are you telling your stories? And just think about it. Are you naturally as good as Victoria? She's very good. Or do you feel like your audience is kind of, you're meandering, you're going on too long, you don't know where to start the story, those are the things that you want to think about. And most cases, people are like, yeah, that's what's happening. But does it have to stay that way? Does it have to stay that way? Or do you want to take your career and elevate it because you just took your communication skills and just catapulted it forward in the most entertaining, educational way that you can in business? We're selling all day long. And no chart is going to turn people on better than your story that the chart is going to be talking about, right? I mean, Victoria could have done this. She could have said 87% of women 45 to 50 are the ones that receive this sort of estrogen depletion. Okay, that was me talking. But if that was just a chart, would you be excited, or you'd just be like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. But instead, she shows it with her story. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there any questions?
Let's open up to some questions.
And people are asking about the book, so we might want to show.
Okay.
There's a link in the chat. There's a link in the chat to find the book.
We don't have one.
But it's okay if we pull the deck back up to, I think it's slide 9, if you want to see the book, that's fine. Because that's what it's really there. It's been written for you. It's been written for you, and it was, and it's written for founders, rising stars, C-suite, etc. And so the book breaks down the process. Okay, it breaks it down like I just did. The companion journal is where you then start mining your own stories, right? And if you go, wow, this is great, but I still need help, then you just contact Story Fruition, and we can help you with personal coaching. Or if your organization's like, God, we could really be better storytellers. We need a story library. just give us a call. Why don't we jump to slide 14? Oops, one more.
Yep.
That one right there. So right there, if you are interested in this, okay, you can go to storyfruitioninfo.com and you'll just go on a landing page, tell me a little bit about yourself. You're going to see a menu of our services. And that's great because then we know what our conversation will be about. Some people are like, I want to do a TED Talk, or I want to have a signature talk where I can go and have it as a lead magnet. And I want to capture people and I want to use stories to help that happen. We compose those with you. We can actually craft a 35 or a 30-minute to 45-minute presentation there where we're helping you with the slides. We're helping you control the slides so that you don't upstage and make wonder wander happen. And we will mine your life for those stories to be integrated into those kind of talks. So do think about that. If you're an investor, if you're working on capital raising, I started with capital raising decks. That's where I learned how poorly people were doing with their decks. And Story Fruition has actually generated over $70 million in investor capital in just the 4 years that we have been in business. So I take it very seriously. And instead of doing the problem slide with a bunch of graphs, it becomes a story. And you are the hero in the story. So the hero's journey is actually that was referred to earlier by Victoria. And we teach that very model so that your stories have a nice arc to it, including your presentations in your boardroom. Okay. And then, and then the last slide is here where the workbook. So
sorry about that. We're jumping around.
One more. There we go. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love feedback on what you saw with the content today of what I just did with Victoria and what we've discussed. If you could that's a quick survey. It's a very quick survey. Or you can go to talk.ac/Melissa Reaves if you're not a QR person, and then enter the word workbook. And you will get, as a gratitude from me for this feedback, you will get a free downloadable story prompt workbook. And what you'll do is you'll see lots of prompts like I just did, like 0 to 0 kind of sort of stuff. And then you can just write down on the first page, just really quick things. You might say, well, it was first time I bought a home, or whatever you're answering the question. But then you can go in and you can spend 5 minutes really writing out that story to start getting these stories that want to come out onto paper or onto your keyboard. Okay. So that would be my gratitude of an appreciation. So you get a free workbook. Just hit workbook when you come in, and blessings to you, because that feedback really gives us a lot of information. So thank you. And that's it for me. Thank you, everyone.
I think we have time for about 5 minutes of questions. Okay. If anybody has a thought or would like to pursue something they've heard here.
What happened in your own minds?
Yeah. Any questions that you have? Do you have a pitch coming up and you have the burning question? Keynote, I'm looking at podcast.
I heard a nonprofit when she pointed out your board members need a couple of great stories about how your nonprofit has helped someone. Share your stories with your clients, give them permission to share them, and they will share and help show people why they should also be your client. Yeah. Storytelling and story sharing, if you can, and that's a compliment, actually. Thank you, Kim. When you're telling a story and someone all of a sudden goes, that reminds me of when I blank, 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 blank. That is such a compliment. That is such a compliment. That means that they're engaged with you. So always do that. Know that that you've mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. They are relating to you. That's great. Versus like, yeah, that was interesting. They don't say anything.
I like the point, though, about giving people stories to tell about you and about your business and the people who are involved in your business, because who can remember, what to say about a particular business? What are the points I have to hit? What does it really do? How does it do it? That's hard. But when there's a story that illustrates that, it's super easy, especially if it's funny or fun. So it's a great way to cement that in people's minds, get them to carry your message.
Well, for onboarding, so I was in ad tech forever. We were the ones that were teaching everybody how to cookie you, so and maybe spam you. We were formulating those terminologies back then. And because it was ad tech and I was living in startups, Many times you would find the layoff thing going on, or, you'd see your friends being laid off and new people were coming in. And I remember being at some companies and I'd be like, does this stuff work? Someone to please tell me a story of success, please. And that's where I realized these story libraries are absolutely key for organizations. Be it if you're a solopreneur, having your own story library ready to go where you have really well-crafted stories and that you learn this art form. Did you see what I did on the fly? It's because I worked out that muscle all the time, right? And that's what it takes. It takes commitment and some work from you. But when you start to get good at this, you will be the one everyone's gathered around at the cocktail party, because you're just vivacious, interesting storyteller. But companies, I noticed when I was in tech, there were core stories that we should all know. We should know the founder's story. Like, how did you guys get into business? And it's not a damn timeline. In 1984, we did this. In 1987, we did that. Like, that's boring. I want to hear about the time that the founder had the light bulb go off in an emotional moment. And then they knew at that time why they had to start this organization, just like we saw from Victoria today, right? She was sick of the pain and anxiety and got into the realization that other people were going through this. And she became committed to her mission to helping other women in the future come forward and not freak out. She has an incredible, great mission because why? She had a personal experience with it herself. How can we not listen to her, right? She's paved the path for those who are about to come upon it. So congratulations. I love that.
Well, this is such powerful work, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here. It's so practical. We can bring it into our businesses every day. And, since 95% of all decisions are emotionally based, this really gives people something to remember and really come back to. And, you can just see how it really successfully drives people to action in a way that you'd like them to. So beautiful work. We just wanted to mention that for the Leadership Global community, we at Outfront Solutions are doing a lot of work with AI-driven technologies to help you with your personal branding and develop content. Who doesn't need content these days? We all need to be getting out really smart content that converts and drives people to, action or websites and what we'd, like to do and engage with them. So we offer a 15% discount to the Leadership Global community. And the way that you just get in touch with us is go to outfront.solutions and our contact us is all over our website. So yeah, we invite you to do that. And let's stay in touch. We do unboxing growth every month. We will have one coming up in September, and we're really excited to join in community with you and bring marketing insights and guest speakers like Melissa. So thank you so much for being here with us today, everyone.